Eleanor Williams. Untold Stories from the West. I was on my back staring at the clouds. A cold breeze was caressing my hair. I could feel the grass touching my skin. I felt alive. I felt present. I wasn't afraid of being caught by the bounty hunters. It was the first time in months that I felt safe. I was there alone, thinking of what will never be. But I was quickly interrupted by Sora's neigh, which gave me a fright and sent shivers down my spine. I quickly got up, got dressed, drew my revolver and aimed it into the forest, right in the direction of a familiar voice that had called my name. Eleanor! Who is it? I thought. How did they know where I was? Who's there? I demanded. I waited 10 seconds for an answer and someone to show themselves, but nothing happened. Am I going crazy? Why am I hearing voices now? Eleanor, why aren't you in your room? There's that voice again. Why am I hearing it and not seeing anyone? I told you to get back to your room. The voice was getting angrier. Wait, I recognize that voice now. He phoned me. How is that possible? I saw him walking towards me, as furious as I remembered him. I didn't want to imagine what he would do to me if he caught me. I was in danger. All my senses were on high alert, and the only thing I had in my mind was to shoot. I pulled the trigger, but it jammed. He grabbed my arm and pressed a pistol against my abdomen. I heard a bang and felt a sharp hot wave go through my body. I grabbed my stomach. He'd shot me. I suddenly dropped to the ground. I felt cold as the blood drained from my body. The light in the world suddenly gave away and the shadows started closing in. Is this what it feels like to die? Eleanor, the stew is ready, said Cripps. Was I dreaming? No. It was definitely a nightmare. I was confused. It felt so real. Were you going to sleep the whole day? Cripps asked. You look like you've seen a ghost. I don't like being talked to right after waking up. I didn't want to be mean, and I definitely didn't want to tell him about it. Just had a bad dream. I'm fine. What time is it? He said it was almost 8 a.m. And lucky for me, he didn't ask about my nightmare. Where's Mom and Grandpa Eddie? I asked. We had been camping out near Blackwater while keeping a low profile because the law had been sniffing around recently. I still had that damn bounty from Strawberry hanging over my head. Camp was getting quite boring, and I'm not used to just sitting and waiting until things calm down. I missed the excitement. I missed the action. I had gotten used to it, but now I have my mother worrying about me and grandfather wanting me to slow down lest my luck finally run out, wanting us to lay low until the heat died down. I understand where they were coming from, so I had decided to do as they wished. Until today, that is. Sandy went up pick groceries and old Eddie went hunting, he said. Mentioned he knows a good place for deer. He'll be back any minute. Get up and get dressed. There's still some coffee left. Cripps is a good cook, and he's great at running the trader business. His harmonica playing isn't half bad either. He was actually the first person I trusted after I left home. He taught me how to shoot, skin animals, and use a bow. All the things a big city girl wouldn't know anything about. I left home at the age of 16. My father was the New York's W.W. Bank CEO, a very wealthy man. My mother was working in a jewelry store at the time, which my father didn't exactly like since he wanted her at home. My sister was 2 years older than me and was my father's favorite child. She got everything she wanted and father never raised his voice at her. She was the perfect child. She got good grades and her future was looking bright. Father got her into university to continue her schooling to become a nurse. She could do practically anything and would never get yelled at. Me? I got everything she didn't. The spankings and getting grounded almost every week. Not being included in the dinners my family had with my father's friends and business partners. I had to always wear my sister's old clothes, and I only got to play with her used toys, some of which were broken. I felt like the black sheep of the family. My mother tried many times to get in between me and my father's heated physicality, and every time my father would tell her not to get involved, she was always quick to obey. I don't blame her. He could just as easily have started to beat her too. I hated the mansion life, having housemates, drivers, and always having people around us. It made me feel anxious. I wanted peace. I wanted freedom. One night I was grounded as per usual, home alone while the family went out for a night on the town. I was grounded because I did something unspeakable, something that I was always told was wrong. I wondered why though. Why was it wrong? Why should people have to hide their true feelings? Why should people have to hide who they truly are? I'll explain that little story some other time. But right now, I was suffocating in this life. Something had to be done, and tonight, I was going to make it happen. My family was at the opera. I knew they were going to be gone for at least a couple of hours. It gave me time to find my bags, put in some clothes, make sandwiches, steal money from my father's safe and his pistol. The pistol he got from his father before his death. I felt guilty taking it, but I had no choice. I had to be able to protect myself. I snuck by the servants and ran from my father's estate with the few belongings that I had. I bought a train ticket to the end of the line. I had no destination. I just wanted to be gone. Gone from a family that made me feel like I didn't belong. I got on the train and sat down somewhere near the back. The train leapt into motion, and the repeated sound of the tracks made my eyes feel heavy. I was dead tired, so I passed out from an exhaustion. I could hear the sound of the bell as the train lurched to a stop. My eyes slowly opened, and I realized we were in Valentine, New Hanover. It had the beginnings of a small town, and very far away. I hated the city life, so this place suited me just fine. And on the top of that, not a single soul knew who the hell I was. Words of me running away eventually did reach Valentine. W.W. Panker's daughter has gone missing. Isn't something to be proud of. It only attracted the creeps. One night, a man tried to rob me. He saw me at the store paying for my groceries with a bill, which must have made him curious because he followed me all the way to my hotel room. Luckily, I had the pistol, and well, he got a bullet to his chest and died almost instantly. I thought the love man in Valentine would be on me in no time, but it seems like nothing was that urgent around these parts. Turns out the man was wanted for multiple rapings in the area. Lucky for me and unlucky for him, I guess. To this day, I'm just glad I had brought that pistol with me. That tense and scary episode made me realize that life here wasn't fantasy. It was as real as it could be. I had been living with creeps for a couple years. Made money by selling goods, collecting and selling eggs, arrowheads, fossils, anything I could find. I brought more guns, a horse, clothes, and better camp supplies. Met some helpful people along the way, and some not so nice people who had to be cleared out of the way. It was easier to kill them when I imagined them as my father. For the first couple of years, I would sometimes randomly burst into tears and got angry at creeps for no reason. I wasn't able to do anything other than cry and shake most nights. I couldn't even breathe well. I was having something called panic attacks. I didn't even know what they were until a doctor that creeps had taken me to tell me about them. When I was 18, I had finally found myself and I'd become the leader of the Pineapples gang. The name might sound funny, but if you ask the people I've killed, they would tell you not to dare laugh again. I only picked the most faithful members, or so I thought. After a time, all of them eventually showed their true colors, so we had to go our separate ways.
Oh, what's this? My favorite grandchild has finally gotten her lazy behind out of the bed. Praise the Lord, it do be a miracle,
said a teasing voice from behind me. My ever-so-gracious grandfather has decided to interrupt my train of thought, but that was for the better, since thinking about the past always made me upset. I was sitting next to the campfire trying to enjoy my cup of coffee, but it was a little too strong for my taste. We were having stew for breakfast again. Yay. Some folks might think that's a strange meal to start the day, but that's camp life for you. Grandfather had a nice deer stoved on the back of his horse. I guess that'll be enough food for the next couple of days. Yeah, I heard you, old man, I said. Sorry I wasn't ready in time. I guess I was more tired than I thought. More tired, really? Who am I trying to fool? I wasn't just tired. I was tired of living this way. My past is eating me from the inside, and I just can't seem to run away from it.
It's alright, child, said Grandpa.
A warm and loving smile appeared across his well-worn face.
Didn't want to wake up the little Miss Sleeping Beauty as you looked like you needed the extra rest. You can accompany me next time.
Mother managed to get her way back from town. She told us what she brought and what she heard people talking about around the town. You know, the usual rumors about the mayor. Mom, I'm going away for a couple days. I'm going to travel to New Austin. I didn't know why I felt the need to tell her. It's not like I'm a child anymore, but we were a gang and it was right to let her know. Alright, I'll pack some food for you. I'll get soda ready as well. I felt like she was used to just obeying people since my father was the way he was. But I was also glad she didn't ask questions. Mother hasn't had the easiest life, being mentally abused by my father for so long, thinking her daughter was dead for years, and not knowing who she truly is couldn't have helped either. She had built up enough courage to leave my father with his favorite daughter and went to rent a small apartment in Saint Denis. Things were pretty good for a little while, but her landlord found out she was from the north, and he still had bitter feelings about the war. The bastard kicked her out for being a Yankee, so she packed what little she had, set out to find herself a new home. But fate had a plan on its own for my mother. Her horse was shot by the bandits, and she found herself in front of their guns and at their mercy. Luckily, I happened to be near roads looking for arrowheads when I heard the gunshots that had felled her horse. When I went to investigate the shots, I saw the bandits with their guns pointed at the poor woman on her knees. At that moment, I have no idea who she was, but I couldn't let the bandits kill an unarmed woman. So I shot a couple of times into the air, and the bandits looked in my direction. They seemed to recognize me because they ran off like a pack of scared coyotes. Without exchanging names, I offered her a ride. She gladly accepted, climbed on the back of my horse, and we set off for the dusty small town of Rhodes. We were both quiet the whole time, but something about her presence felt familiar. Once we arrived at Rhodes, I took a look at her face. It was Cynthia, my mother. I hadn't seen her in a couple of years, but her face somehow looked older. The life outside of her comfort zone really showed. We didn't say anything, but I could see she knew who I was. She had the same look on her face as when my father used to yell at me, a look of compassion. I didn't know how to react, so I stood there like I was stuck in a muddy swamp. I could tell she wanted to wrap her arms around me, but ever since I turned 13, I didn't let people touch me because I thought everyone was going to hurt me like my father did. So we just stared at each other until she asked me if she could stay with me for at least a couple of days, just until she could figure out what her next move would be. I guess I don't need to tell you that it ended up being more than a couple days.
"Do you need me with you?" asked Grandpa. "New Austin can be quite tough. Those dirty little lubs are everywhere down there. Bunch of nasty sons of bitches."
Grandpa Eddie had first come into my life when I was 4 years old. He'd spotted Mother and I shopping in a general store in New York after decades of choosing to be alone. He said he'd lost his way after fighting for the North in Civil War, ended up leaving his wife and daughter to lead a less than honorable life while only keeping in contact via letters and the occasional photo. He said seeing us both on that day made him overcome with emotion, shame, and regret. He walked right up to Mother and she embraced him like he'd never left. He confessed that looking into the eyes of his grandchild made him want to be a better man, so he decided to stick around and live his life for his daughter and granddaughter. Later in life, when Mother had escaped her husband, Grandpa got word and he started to track her down a few weeks after she'd left. Eventually he found us, and the rest is history. The old man was loyalty to fault. Grandpa Eddie was always worried if I left by myself. I think part of him still saw me as a child. He was really the only one who showed me love and care. I really enjoyed going on little trips with him where he taught me how to ride a horse and how to understand them. He was an excellent horse whisperer. He taught me how to survive in the wild. One of my favorite childhood memories is when we'd sit around the campfire and he'd tell me stories about his time in the Civil War. I always admired his courage to go into the battlefield and fight for a cause he believed in and knew was right. "Don't worry yourself, Grandpa. I'll be fine in New Austin," I assured him. "I've been there before. You just have to avoid certain places. I've been to Armadillo many times with Lucinda." Lucinda, a name I don't mention a lot these days. She was my first love, the one who broke my heart into a million pieces. We met in Stillwater Creek. She was hiding from bandits at the Thieves' Landing, and I was there for Thaddeus Walter's men. They were wanted in 4 states and had built up quite the price on their heads. I rode to her with my gun already drawn because I thought she was their lookout. She heard me coming and quickly drew her gun on me too. There we were, ready to shoot each other. I took a quick look at her outfit and it didn't look like something a bandit from Thieves' Landing would be caught dead in. So I lowered my revolver, and just as I was going to tell her that I'm a bounty hunter and was not there for her, we were surrounded. It was Thaddeus Walter's men. All 4 of them had got the drop on us and had formed a perimeter around the area. I jumped off my horse and went back to back with Lucinda. She had her guns pointed at 2 of their rotten faces. I was aiming at the other 2. For a brief moment, everything was quiet. Sweat was dripping from my brow. I could hear a toad hop along the bank of the creek next to us as the wind blew through the leaves of the trees. Suddenly, and without warning, Lucinda opened fire, and all I could do was follow her lead. Bullets started flying everywhere. I shot the ugliest one in the kneecap, and his gun went flying from his hand as he fell to the ground. I wanted at least one of them bastards alive. I shot the fat one in the chest, killing him instantly. Lucinda didn't think twice. With 2 quick pulls of the trigger, she performed emergency brain surgery on the 2 targets. Unfortunately for them, they didn't survive the operation. We took the live one to Blackwater, and the sheriff told us that he'd be hanged by the morning. The bastard tried talking his way out of it, but no one was going to fall for his bullshit. The sheriff sent some of his men to get the remaining bodies from Stillwater Creek, so he could tally up a proper reward. I asked Lucinda if she wanted to grab a drink at the saloon so we could reminisce our little adventure that day. Also, I wanted to tell her that I didn't care why she was there or what she was doing. That was her business, hers and hers alone. To my surprise, she took me up on the offer. We ended up spending the whole evening together, having a few drinks and telling funny bounty hunting stories while walking around the town. She was asking questions about my life, and after a few drinks, I didn't mind telling her. Saw her the next day for a meal too. We spent a lot of time together in the following weeks. We ended up going into business together, bounty hunting partners, with straight 50-50 split. The outlaws of this world weren't ready for 2 bounty hunting beautiful killers who could shoot a fly off their horse's back. We knew it would be dangerous, but we didn't care. We were all in. One time at the Twin Rocks, we were going after some members of the Del Lobos. Lucinda took one in the shoulder. A cold wave of fear washed over me as I saw her fall back behind cover with blood gushing out of her. I'd never felt anything like it before in my life. It was at that very moment that I realized I loved her. She looked at me and let out a little laugh as a hail of bullets hammered the waist-high stone boulders that we were hiding behind. She was brave, but I could see a glint of fear behind those magnetic green eyes. I shakily reloaded my guns when an inner strength, born out of pure adrenaline, filled me with the fearless fire that exploded inside me. I gave her a little smirk and a wink as I took a deep breath and walked out from behind cover and started unloading on the scum that would dare try and take my girl away from me.
Over my dead body!
I screamed as I fired round after round into the evil sacks of meat that were lined up in the clearing just ahead of us. It was as if death itself had emerged out from behind those boulders looking to feast on the souls of the wicked. After what seemed like only seconds, blood, bullet shells and bodies stained it and scattered the ground in front of me. It was over. I fell to my knees, alive but out of breath. My whole body was shaking, but I didn't dare to let go of my guns. I tried getting back to my feet, but the world started spinning. My body gave out and I collapsed, kissing the hard, unforgiving ground below me. I fell into the unconsciousness. I had no idea how much time had passed, but I slowly became aware of myself again. It felt like the pulse in my neck was literally pumping life back into me. Relief came as I could hear Lucinda calling out my name.
Eleanor!
My eyelids slightly cracked open and I saw her walking towards me, holding her bloody shoulder. She kneeled down to check if I was still breathing. I could see in her eyes that she really cared about me. She helped me sit back up and gave me a drink from my canteen. The dust had settled, and I could now clearly see our little battlefield. Not a single soul alive, except for Lucinda and I. She looked like she was in pain, so I wanted to check up on that gunshot wound as quickly as possible. We walked into the shade underneath a small cliff and sat down. I ripped her shirt so I could better see the wound. Listening and watching my sister practice and study to become a nurse back in the day certainly didn't go to waste. I learned how to treat a gunshot wound. Also, Grandpa Eddie taught me what he knew because he was forced to do that a couple times in the war. I always carried a very small medkit in my bag when I traveled. With a small bottle of alcohol, I washed the wound and my hands. I dipped a small blade of my pocket knife into the bottle. I told Lucinda to bite the piece of her ripped shirt because it was going to hurt like hell. I had to go in and get the bullet out. I started digging into the wound with my knife while avoiding her bone and the main artery. If I nipped that, she could be dead in minutes. I was trying to make it as quick and painless as possible as I listened to Lucinda's muffled screams. "Just hold on, girl. Nearly there," I said. She started kicking her leg outwards from the pain. After what seemed like an entity, I managed to scoop out the bullet. I dressed the wound with bandage and gave her a little drink from my canteen. We were both dripping in sweat. "I need a vacation," she said as she curled up under the ground. Both of us started laughing. We went and stayed a couple of nights in the room above Armadillo Saloon. Not the best place to sleep since the working girls and the patrons were always so damn loud, but it was better than sleeping with the coyotes. I'm definitely falling hard for this one, I thought as I rode off to check on some leads for another bounty we had our eye on, just while Lucinda was recovering and just to keep myself busy. 3 full days passed and she regained enough strength to be able to ride a horse, so we started making our way out of New Austin. The sooner we left that hellhole, the better. We kept our bounty partnership going in the next few months. I introduced her to my mother and Grandpa. Grandpa never liked her and he warned me not to trust her, and now I know why. Things got rocky between us after we started settling down for a while. Lucinda just wasn't into the camp life, and she wanted to go chase bad guys all the damn time. Never really wanted to talk anymore or spend time with me. It really started to hurt. She had changed. I gave her all I had, and I got barely nothing in return. One evening she came back from a bounty hunting job, looking proud of what she'd done. She joined me around the campfire and started telling me how her trip went. I listened to her because hear her speak was a rarity these days. It was odd how much she talked at this moment. It was like she was saving it up all this time just to let it all out now. She talked well into the night after everyone had gone to bed. She eventually started talking to me about wanting to hunt down members of the Dutch Vandalion gang. I thought she was out of her mind for doing so because word around the place was there were over 10 of them and they were very skilled gunfighters. Too much for the 2 of us. I told her to think about this and sleep it on. When I woke up in the morning, I noticed she was gone. Thought maybe she had gone to the town to look for any new bounty posters. But no, she had really left us this time. All her stuff had been packed up and taken. She just hightailed it out of here. I waited for weeks for her to come back, but she never showed. Grandpa Eddie tried to track her down, but her trail went cold. It was as if she never existed. A sneaky ghost bitch that just vanished from my life. After more time passed, I only then realized that I didn't really know anything about her at all. She never told me about her past, or where she came from, what her favorite fruit was, or how she wanted her life to be. Nothing. It was one-sided love, and it was destined to fail.
Lucinda,
snorted Grandpa.
That bitch who broke your heart and tore her ass out of here, never to be seen or heard from again. Fucking camp follower.
That's right, I said boldly. And if she ever dares to show her face to me again, I'll pull a bullet where her cold, lifeless heart used to be. Grandpa laughed out loud.
That's my girl.
He took out his knife and started to skin the deer he'd brought back to camp.
You're better off without that whore anyway. God damn. She only slowed you down. Little bitch was like a time bomb waiting to go off. In a way, you were lucky just to have a wounded heart. It could have been a lot worse. Had that bomb gone off at the wrong time. There we go. She was too trigger happy. Wouldn't take time to reflect or think about her actions. She was dangerous, in a stupid way.
I looked over my pack and oiled my guns before I hopped onto the saddle. My beloved horse Sora was looking as beautiful as ever. Her coat was shining in the sun. I knew she would never let me down. She was a loyal friend. Remember to stay away from the north area. It's not safe, Mom said with a concerned look on her face, her arms on her hips. come back in one piece.
Remember, stay smart, stay safe,
added Grandpa. I always do, I said. I made a clicking noise to let Sora know it was time to ride. I waved back at them as I was riding along the road. Maybe New Austin will give me what I needed.